elephants marching towards you. So now let us start the class. So today we will start the discussion on statistical theory of inference. Okay. So what is this all about, statistical theory of inference? So let me start sharing. Yes, can you see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we'll be discussing about, we'll start a discussion on theory of estimation. Okay. So we'll discuss about theory of estimation. So what is this theory of estimation? So theory of estimation is nothing. So it basically it is basically part of inductive inference. Okay. So it is basically part of inductive inference. And what is this inductive inference? Inductive inference is nothing but logic of drawing statistically valid conclusions about the population from the sample which is drawn from it. Okay. So this is nothing but the inductive inference. So theory of estimation is part of inductive inference. There is one more thing apart from theory of estimation, which is theory of hypothesis testing. So this forms part of inductive inference. So inductive inference is nothing but logic of drawing statistically valid conclusions about the population from the sample which is drawn from it. So you have already studied about what? Theory of sampling. Okay. So you have already studied about theory of sampling in your last semester. Fine. Now, why do we go for theory, or why do we go for sampling? Because there are two ways of collecting data from the population. One is by the complete enumeration, which is census, and the other is sampling. Now, when the population size becomes large and large, then census method is not a very effective method, is not a very cost effective or time effective method for collecting data. Okay, so it is time consuming as well as resource consuming, and where time and resource becomes a factor, then census is not the viable option to collect data or information of the population. So then we resort to sampling. So we randomly select the individuals based on our question of interest or our objective of interest from the population, and then we estimate certain parameters which are nothing but the okay, which are nothing but, so we estimate nothing. So we draw sample and then we estimate what? We estimate the sample statistics. sample statistics, and based on the sample statistics estimated, then we use the inductive inference to draw statistically valid conclusions. So in this case, when you are estimating sample statistics, so we would like to draw statistically valid conclusions about population parameters. And what kind of the population parameters? Mean, median, variance. So these are the things we are interested about. Whether you go for simple statistics, I mean descriptive statistics, or whether you'd like to go for econometric methods. Which actually is developed from mathematical statistics. Okay. Now, this is what we actually want to do. So, we would like to see, so what is our objective? Inductive inference. Inductive inference, so based on the sample statistics that we have been estimated, so we would like to see that how much, so what are our objectives? So we would like to now generalize the results to the population. That means we'd now like to get an idea about the population parameter. How much valid are the estimates? How much valid are the estimates of the population parameters? And the degree of accuracy or confidence of these estimates. Okay. So this is what we do in case of statistical inference. So the entire study that is being based to draw statistically valid conclusions about these population parameters based on the sample estimates is something known as statistical inference or inductive inference. So this is a separate branch of statistics, and we have already said that there are two main branches of statistics. One is the estimation, and after estimation we go for hypothesis testing. Okay. Fine. Now next. So next, this theory of statistical inference, this separate branch of statistical inference was developed by a person known as Ronald A. Fisher. So we already studied about the Fisherian quantity theory of money. So he's basically an economist, but he was also a statistician who developed the statistical inference theory and this estimation theory, basically the estimation theory. So his estimation theory was basically divided into two parts: point estimation and interval estimation. So point estimation is nothing but a single value of the sample statistic. So estimate a single value of the sample statistic, like we have done for mean, median, and mode. Whereas interval estimation is nothing but range of possible range of values of sample statistic within a given interval that is between two quantities which are nothing but the upper and lower limit. Okay. Now basically any estimate of sample statistic should have four features. That is, it should be what? Unbiased. It should be what? Consistent. Second. Third, it should be efficient. And fourth, it should be sufficient. That means unbiasedness, consistency, efficiency, and sufficiency should be the hallmark of any sample statistic that we are estimating, based on which we draw conclusions about the population parameter. Okay. Now, what is this unbiasedness? So, let's say there is a sample statistic T. Let's say this T can be win, which is based on a sample of observations x2 to xn drawn from a, so there are sample of n observations drawn from a population size capital N. T, let's say the sample statistic. So for example, let us consider the sample statistic is nothing but the sample mean. So which is function of all the sample of n observations x1, x2 to n. So this sample statistic T if expected value of t is equal to theta, which is the population parameter which we are trying to estimate from the sample. Okay. So sample statistic t is said to be unbiased if the expected value of t is equal to theta, which is the population parameter whose estimate we are trying to derive using by the estimation of the sample statistic. Okay. So what does that mean? It means, let's say, if you're trying to estimate the, let's say we have the population sample mean, which is x bar. So if x bar is an unbiased estimator, if x bar is an unbiased estimator of population mean mu, then expected value of the population mean should be if the x bar is the sample statistic, that means it is a sample mean, then the expected value of the sample mean should be equal to mu, which is the population mean. Similarly, if P is the estimate of the sample proportion, then proportion of the sample, then the expected value of small p should be equal to capital P, which is the population proportion. Okay. But the expected value of the sample variance is not equal to the expected value of the population variance, which is sigma square. So the expected value of the sample variance A square is not equal to the expected value of the population variance sigma square. So what is the formula for sample variance? 1 by n, 1 to the power n, x minus x bar whole square. So which can be written as 1 by n equal to n. So we don't write this anymore. So this will be x minus x bar square. Okay. So this is not equal to the population area. But if we take another estimate, that is capital A square, 1 by n minus 1 sigma x minus x bar square. Okay. Then in that situation, this estimated value of this capital A square will always be equal to what? It will always be equal to the population variance. Okay, this will always be equal to the population variance. Now what we can see from this equation 1 and equation 2, from equation 1 what do we get? So a square, small a square is equal to 1 by n into summation of x minus x bar whole square. So we can write from 1 n a square, and from 2 n minus 1 a square. Okay, so from 3 and 4 what we can write? They're the same quantities. N, so this is n a square, capital, sorry, one moment. So this is a, this capital A square. So we can now write this as n a square equal to n minus 1 capital A square. So what we can write about capital A square? We can write capital A square equal to what? N by n minus 1 small a square. Similarly, what we can write about small a square? Small a square we can write n minus 1 by n capital A square. So this is nothing but 1 minus 1 by n capital A square. So what does this mean? It means when n tends to infinity, that is when n is very, very large, then a square, then what is happening in the limit? Limit infinity 1 by 1 minus n. What happens to this limit? Again, what is the limit value of this? Limit n tends to infinity 1 by 1 minus 1 by n?
A square.
So it is 1. That means a square will be approximately equal to capital A square. Yes, so when n is very large, then expected value of small a square will be approximately equal to the population variance. Okay. Yes. So about this we'll study also later. Okay, so page 4. Now, what next? So now we have got this result. Now, if T is biased, okay, if T is biased, then expected value of T will be population theta plus some bias, okay. So this B is nothing but measure of biasedness. So if B is greater than 1, that means T is positively biased. Okay. If B is less than 1, then T is negatively biased or downward biased. And if B is less than 1, if B is equal to 0, then what happens? T is unbiased. Okay. Now next, similarly, when you write about this expected value of A square, so we already know what is A square. So A square is nothing but n minus 1 by n capital A square, which was nothing but 1 minus 1 by n capital A square. So when we take this expected value of small a square, so this 1 by 1 minus n will remain outside. So we'll take the expected value of the capital A square. So we already know that expected value of capital A square is equal to sigma square. So we can write this as follows: 1 by 1 minus n to sigma square. So this is nothing but sigma square minus sigma square by n. So you can see here clearly again that when n tends to infinity, limit n tends to infinity, sigma square minus sigma square by n will be equal to sigma square, because n tends to infinity, so this term will become 0 and get only sigma square. So in the limit when n tends to infinity, expected value of small a square will always be equal to sigma square, which is the population parameter for variance. Okay. Next we come to the concept of consistency. Okay. So what is this consistency or consistent? So a sample statistic T is said to be. Acha, by the way, Vigyan, please go through the notes that I have given for probability as well as expectations in the last semester. You have to go through the notes because they are very important when we go through this theory of estimation and hypothesis testing. So please revise them. I don't know if you have gone through them or not. If you have not gone through them, please go through them. A sample. So now coming back to the discussion, a sample statistic T is said to be consistent if probability, that is probability of T. Okay. So probability of T, probability of this A tending to, okay. So when n tends to infinity, that means when sample size is very, very large. That means when sample size n is very, very large, then probability of the sample, that the probability that the sample statistic Tn, so T is what? T is nothing but a function of the observations. So Tn means that is it is a function of n sample observations. So probability, sorry, this will not be theta, this will not be infinity, but this will be theta, which is the population parameter. So the probability that Tn tends to theta, okay, Tn is tending to theta when n tends to infinity, that means when sample size becomes very large, is equal to 1. That means with perfect certainty, the value of the sample statistic will approach or will almost be equal to the value of the population parameter if the number of the sample size, if the sample size n becomes very large such that n is tending towards infinity. Okay. So what does this mean? This actually means if the sample size n increases, then the estimate of sample statistic becomes more precise and closer to the what? Closer to the population parameter. Okay. So this is what we need to discuss about the consistency property of the sample statistic.
So I was writing that thing.
But I'll give it to you. You're always following. I'm sending the video for what purpose? I am sending the video for what purpose then?
Yes.
So
to make the notes.
Then, and I'll also send it what I am writing here also. Did you go through the notes on Indian economy and econometrics which I have already sent?
Yes. Econometrics I have gone through.
Indian economy?
Yes, I opened.
Okay, just open. Good. Now, there is a theorem associated with this consistency. So, what is the theorem? So, the theorem is this, that let's say there is a sample statistic Tn, which is a function of the sample of observations, okay, and also the number of the sample and also the number of observations in the sample. Now, if the expected value of this Tn tends to the population parameter, then the expected value of the, so if the expected value of the Tn tends to the population parameter theta, then the variance of the sample statistic tends to 0. Okay. So the theorem of consistency states that when the expected value of the population parameter, and what is the population expected value of the population parameter? So let's say you have estimated different population parameters Tn1, Tn2 till Tnn. Okay. So now this forms a sample of estimates, not sample of population, but sample of estimates. Okay. So when you get the sample of estimates, so this creates a distribution of estimates. Okay. So when it creates a distribution of estimates, you have got two characteristics. One is the estimated value. Okay. And the other is the variance of the estimate. Okay. So the consistency theorem states that it is not concerned, right? It is not concerned about the sample size n, but it is concerned about the sample of the estimates which we are getting by drawing different samples from the population and estimating sample statistic based on the sample that we are drawing from the population from time to time. And then we create a distribution of those estimates and estimate the expected value of that sample of estimates, which is nothing but the mean value of the estimates of that sample as well as the variance of the estimates. So when the expected value of the sample estimate tend towards infinity, which is based on the sample distribution of the estimates, then the variance of that estimate, which is based on the sample of that estimates, will tend to 0. Okay, so this is what we derive from consistency. And further, this also states that n should tend towards infinity. That means as sample size becomes larger and larger. So as sample size is now becoming larger and larger, so when you so that means as n you keep on increasing and you take different samples from the population based on that sample size n, when n tend towards infinity, then you create a sample of estimates and correspondingly distribution estimates, and when you calculate the expected value of that sample of estimates, which is E of Tn, and it will tend towards infinity as and when the variance of this sample of estimates tend towards 0. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next characteristic which we come to is the efficiency. Okay, so what does this efficiency mean? So let's say there can be more than one sample estimate. Are you saying something, Obikyan?
I'm saying about father.
Okay. When there is more than one sample estimate which is consistent, when there is more than one sample estimate which is consistent, let's say there are two sample estimates. That are consistent. Okay. There are two sample estimates that are consistent. So out of these two sample estimates that are consistent, the sample estimate having the lowest variance will be the most efficient estimate. So variance is nothing but what? Variance is nothing but a measure of uncertainty in the estimates that we derive. So if the measure of uncertainty, that means higher the variance, higher is the measure of uncertainty, that means higher, and there is higher uncertainty about the preciseness of the sample estimate, even though it is consistent. So if the variance of the two, so the of amongst these two sample estimates that are consistent, the one which has got the lowest variance will be the most efficient. Why it will be most efficient? Because it will have much lesser amount of uncertainty regarding its preciseness of estimate regarding the population parameter. So this means that if the variance, that means if the estimate is having much lesser variance, that means if it is much more precise and pinpointed, then it will be most efficient estimate. Okay. Now let's say there are two statistics of the sample, which is mean, and as an example, and median. Okay. So both this mean and median are two consistent estimates of the sample. So they're giving me consistent estimate about the population parameter. But median has lower variance. So variance of mean is lower than the variance of median. So if the variance of mean is lower than the variance of median, that means mean is more efficient sample statistic. So how do you measure the efficiency of the estimate? In breakfast today,
Sir? Sir, I cannot hear you.
what did you have in breakfast today?
Sir, roti bhaji.
Huh?
Sir, roti sabji.
Very good.
Sir, you?
Nothing, just bread butter. Okay. So coming back to the discussion. So how do you measure this efficiency? So measure of efficiency of estimate. Okay, so measure the efficiency of the estimate of the sample statistics. So which is nothing but the estimator. We'll say this is actually the estimator, where whenever I'm talking about estimate, remember I'm talking about the estimator, sample estimator. Okay, estimator of the population of the sample T1, T2. Now T1 has a variance V1. Variance of T1 is less than variance of T2. So the efficiency T1 will be given by this, that is V1 by V2. So we know that V1 is less than V2. So that means
Sir, your voice is not audible. Sir, maybe because the internet.
okay. So now, so if T1, let's say T1, there are two estimates, T1 and T2 of the two. These are two estimates, and to find the population sample mean. So these are two estimators, T1 and T2, for the sample mean. Now T1 has a variance of V1, T2 has a variance of that is V1 by
Sir.
V2. Yes.
Sir, your voice is not clear. It is getting stuck in between.
Getting stuck in between. Okay. So this is measure of efficiency of estimator. So I should now write this as estimator, measure of efficiency of estimator. So there are two estimators, T1, T2. Their variances are V1 and V2. So where V1 is less than V2, then I will be measuring the efficiency. So measure of efficiency of T2 will be given as V1 by V2, which is less than 1. Okay, since V1 is less than V2. So theoretically, the value of efficiency or a measure of efficiency of any estimator, so measure of efficiency of any estimator cannot exceed 1. Why? Let us see. So if you see here, this V1 can at most be less than or equal to V2. Okay. So I'm taking that V1 is less than equal to V2. So when V1 becomes less than equal to V2, what happens? Efficiency of T2 is measured by nothing as the ratio of V1 to V2, where V1 is the variance of T1 and V2 is the variance of T2. So this can be less than or equal to 1. That means the measure of efficiency of any estimator cannot exceed 1. Okay. It can always be, it can, in most cases, it will be less than 1. It cannot exceed 1. Only when both of them are equal, that is V1 is equal to V2, then efficiency of T2 will be equal to 1. Okay. So it will always, most cases, it will be less than 1. It cannot exceed 1. The last feature of any estimator is sufficiency. So what is this sufficiency? Sufficiency means, that means, or whenever we are estimating any when we are estimating any sample statistic, that means any estimator that is involved is said to be sufficient if it contains all information about the population. That means if the sample that you have drawn from the population is very much representative of the population, that means it is containing all the information regarding the population, and the estimator that you are estimating based on that sample, then it will be a sufficient. Okay, so what do we mean by that? Let's say there are n observations drawn from a sample x1, x2 to xn. Now you're estimating a sample statistic, so let that estimator be t. So then the probability, okay, so what is the probability? So the probability is this, that the conditional distribution, so the conditional distribution, that means x1, x2 till xn, given the estimator whose value is equal to k. So the conditional distribution, of x1, x2 to xn given tn equal to k will be independent of the population. That means the conditional distribution of x1, x2 to xn, that means probability x1 intersection x2 intersection xn given tn equal to k, it will not depend on the population parameter theta. That means the conditional distribution of x1 to xn is independent of the population parameter theta given tn equal to k. So when tn is equal to k and given tn equal to k, the conditional distribution of the of the observations in the sample, that means x1, x2 to xn, will not depend on the population parameter theta. Okay, so we stop here today. Okay, so this is what I needed to discuss in today's class regarding starting with this estimation theory. So I will continue this discussion in tomorrow's class also. Okay, and I'll send this recording. So go through this, and if you have any doubt, do intimate me. Okay, so thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, sir.